Hey vänner! So this is for anyone who is going to be an exchange student or is just like curious what it's like. I got a lot of questions about my own experience and also about being an exchange student in general. So I thought I was gonna just take all those questions and answer. So let's jump into it. The first question is, how old were you when you went? I was 16 when I went abroad and I turned 17 in America. Favorite foods back home? I would say meatballs because that's the only like typical Swedish food I can think of. But since I'm a vegan, that wouldn't make any sense. Vegan meatballs? How cold does it get there in the winter in Sweden? I'm not even gonna try to do this in Fahrenheit. So on a good winter, I would say that the coldest it gets is like -20. On a bad winter, maybe like -30. Well, that's something to look forward to. Basically, really freaking cold. Have you gained any weight since being in the States? I don't know exactly how much because I didn't really keep track. That just felt depressing. What I heard before I went is that most people gain between 5 and 10 kilograms while they're abroad, but usually that happens the first half of the year and then you kind of go back to like your more normal weight. What has been your biggest surprise about America? Honestly, the biggest surprise for me was probably that America isn't a dream country, especially in Europe, since we are generally very influenced by America. We see a lot of American movies and music and books and stuff. So you get this idea that everyone is like upper middle class and live in like beautiful houses and have perfect lives. I was 16. I mean, I thought everything was gonna be like in a American teen movie. It's not like I was disappointed. It just, when I got there, just felt less like a dream and more like reality. I don't know if I'm making sense. How is education in the US? Could you describe how your high school was? Yes, I will try. It's very, very hard to compare Swedish and American schools because they're very, very different. My experience in Swedish schools is that we have a lot more focus on critical thinking. It's not as much about learning dates or about specific events, but knowing how to like analyze, have different perspectives. I didn't get that at all as much when I was abroad. Also, they are way better at math in America. This definitely depends on what high school you're in. I found it pretty easy to get good grades, which was nice. I didn't study a lot at all. I didn't have a lot of academic subjects, except for like math. But even math, which is my worst subject now, was like I got an A or an A minus or something like that. What was it? Algebra? Calculus? I don't know. I can't even remember. I took a lot of math. I don't know why. Why would I do that to myself? Like, just from handing in your work got you pretty far. If we talk about the more fun stuff, like sports and cheerleading and all of that, that is probably what makes the schools the most different. In Sweden, I have classes. Some days I have one class, some days I have like 6 or 7. So I just show up to class. Like, I don't hang around in school a lot. I usually just go to the city and like shop or have lunch with my mom. So it's more like university probably. Whereas in America it's very, very strict. You have 5 minutes in between classes. We had 30 minutes for lunch, I think. So school spirit is a thing in America, which it is not here. I mean, you hang out in school a lot, like everything you do kind of happens through school, like all the sports, even other activities, clubs. They had like music groups and of course like all the football events and the cheerleading and that was That actually did feel like I was in a movie. You indicated that you had a crisis in the winter when you were in Moab. Can you tell us more about that? Also, did you have a hard time readjusting to Swedish culture? Basically, I didn't want to keep living with the family I was living with. I was struggling with that a lot because the company I went with wouldn't let me, even though I had a family that would like take me in. Oh my god, I died. And it took a lot of my time and I was really stressed about it, especially since I felt like no one was on my side. That was really rough actually. The company I went with, EF, before I left, they promised me all of these comforts that I would have and people I could talk with if I had any problems and so on. But when it actually came to it, I just felt like they did what was best for them, what would make them look good. After all, like I paid a lot of money to go there and that was really frustrating. And the worst part about that was that I talked to this one lady and I explained my situation, and she was working for the company. She was like a psychiatrist or something. I can't really remember. But I talked to her once and she was like, you should definitely not live there. But then someone else came in and they were like, no, don't listen to her. She can't say that. And then I pretty much got an ultimatum. Either you stay here or you go back home. Well, I stayed there. At one point during the winter, people from EF came down to Moab where I lived, and I sat there with, I think it was 5 grown-ups. They were all involved in EF somehow. The people I live with, they were also there. And I had to explain why I didn't want to live there. And that was extremely hard for a 16-year-old who didn't even speak English as her native language. To be there and feel like none of these people wants what's best for me. I don't think, like thinking about it now, that you should put a teenager in that kind of a situation. So did I have a hard time readjusting to Swedish culture? I did actually. It was just small things like I got more shy when I got back than I was back in America. Being around people that are very open, it affects you, or it affected me. And then when I got back home, it was the opposite. Were you afraid to make friends? It was a little bit nerve-wracking to just walk into school the first day and not knowing anyone. But I try not to think about it too much and just like talk to people in small ways that I felt comfortable with, like giving people compliments, asking questions about where, like finding classrooms or anything I could think of, just to like start conversations, and that resulted in me getting friends. So that's definitely something I would recommend doing. What was the hardest part about leaving? I'm not sure if this person is referring to leaving Sweden or leaving America. I'm just gonna answer both very briefly. Sweden wasn't very hard for me to leave because I knew I was gonna be back in a year, and I was just really ready to see something else than the city I've grown up in. So I was just very excited. But leaving was way harder because, I mean, I had a boyfriend and a best friend. It was really hard leaving them and leaving this whole life I had built up there, because I had no idea when I would see those people or be back again. That night was a lot of crying. Do you choose to be an exchange student? No, actually they force you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and it's crazy expensive, but it's worth it if you have the opportunity. Was it what you expected? No, I try not to expect anything, and honestly I didn't really think a lot about what it was gonna be like, but it was definitely not what I expected. I don't think it's even possible for an exchange year to be as you expect it to be, because you literally have no idea what kind of people you're gonna meet or just how your life is gonna change. Would you go back if you could? I did go back this summer actually. It was great. I met my best friends and we went on a road trip through California. I was there for a month, and hopefully some of them are coming here this winter or this summer. We'll just have to wait and see. Was school in America as good as it is back home? That's also really hard for me to answer, since I didn't focus a lot on my schoolwork there, which I do here. So I definitely get more out of school in Sweden, and I work way harder here. So my own personal experiences, the Swedish school gives me more knowledge, but that might also be because I care about school here. How did you pay for it? My parents have money in the funds, if that's what it's called in English. Let's go with that. I think I've had it since I was a kid, and the money is just there to grow. After a lot of convincing my parents, they were like, okay, it's your money, so you can use that if you want to. And so I did. Most people say that food in America is mostly bad. Did you eat veggies at all? I want to say yes, but honestly it was not a lot of vegetables. A lot of fried chicken though. I was not a vegan back then. Okay, this is an interesting question. Complimenti per il bel video. I'm not even sure if it's a question. Comunique parli molto bene. Oh my god. I'm slaughtering this language. This beautiful, beautiful language. Chiaramente ed abbastanza facile per un italiano capirti. So I take Spanish, not Italian. Something about my English being understandable? Probably. Well, thank you, Italian person. Did your English actually improve at all? Yes. My English improved a lot. Being around a language for a year, you're gonna get better at it. Definitely my accent and my vocabulary. Yeah, no, definitely way better at English. I've gotten a lot of questions about why I don't recommend EF, because I know it's a big company and many people choose to go with them. I answered that earlier. And yeah, so that's basically the reason that I feel like they care way more about their own cooperation, which I understand, but I also think that they could take way better care of their exchange students. That was all I had to say. I hope at least some people find this video interesting and helpful. If you have any more questions, please comment below. Why not give it a thumbs up or like a follow? Hejdå!